The council chamber stretched wide like an ocean of light. Representatives from 300 species sat in their designated sections, their bodies as different as night and day. Some breathed oxygen, others methane. Some had wings, others had tentacles. But they all shared one thing. They had forgotten. Ambassador Kelrix of the Zkari stood at the center platform, his 4 arms gesturing with confidence. His scales shimmered blue under the chamber lights. "Honored Council," he said, his voice carried by translators to every corner. "For 10,000 years we have respected the quarantine zone around the Yellow Star. But why? What threat could possibly remain after so long?" The elderly matriarch Cecily, a creature that looked like flowing water held together by an energy field, spoke slowly. "The quarantine exists because our ancestors placed it there. We honor their wisdom." "Wisdom or fear?" Kelrix challenged. "Our empire grows. We need resources. The Yellow Star system has 12 planets, hundreds of moons, and asteroid belts rich with minerals, and it sits empty, wasted." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several younger species nodded in agreement. The galaxy had known peace for so long that ancient warnings seemed like fairy tales. Council Archivist Thenok, a being whose species lived for thousands of years, slowly stood. His many eyes blinked in sequence. "I have searched the old records. There are mentions of the Yellow Star, mentions of a species called humans. The records are damaged, but I found fragments. Every screen in the chamber lit up with corrupted data. Words appeared and disappeared. Earth, dangerous. They promised warfare beyond measure. Gave them time. They said they would return. You see?" Kelrix pointed at the screens. Fragments of fear from species that died out ages ago. There is nothing there now. Our scouts confirm the system is dead. The 3rd planet is frozen solid. No life signs. No energy readings beyond background radiation. "There is one more thing," Thenok said quietly. He projected one final fragment, the text flickering. "They said they'd return. We should have believed them." Silence filled the chamber. "Return from what?" Kelrix asked. "From where? They're gone, dead, if they ever existed at all. I propose we vote to lift the quarantine and open the system for colonization." The debate lasted for hours. The older species urged caution. The younger ones spoke of progress and opportunity. In the end, democracy won. The vote passed by a narrow margin. The quarantine around the Yellow Star was officially lifted. Kelrix returned to his flagship with triumph burning in his chest. Within days, he assembled a colonization fleet, 30 ships carrying miners, engineers, and soldiers. They would be the first to claim the Yellow Star's riches in 500,000 years. As the fleet prepared to jump to hyperspace, Kelrix stood on his bridge, looking at the star charts. The Yellow Star had a designation, Sol. The 3rd planet was called Earth in the old records. He wondered what ancient species had lived there. What had they been afraid of? It didn't matter now. The past was dead. The future belonged to the bold. Deep in the council archives, Thenok continued his research. He couldn't shake the feeling that they had made a terrible mistake. The fragments bothered him. Why would so many different species across thousands of years all agree to quarantine one system? He dug deeper into the damaged files. Most were corrupted beyond recovery, but he found pieces of images, structures, massive structures in space, ships perhaps. The files were labeled with words he had to translate through 7 dead languages. Fleet carriers, the Long Watch, Prometheus Protocol. "They will wait. Wait for what?" He found a fragment of a transmission, barely readable. "This is Captain Sarah Chen of Earth Fleet Command. We have engaged the enemy beyond the rim. We are pursuing. Earth will go dark until the threat is eliminated. Our fleet will remain on station. We will guard the galaxy while it sleeps. We will return. This is not goodbye. This is see you later." The timestamp made no sense. It was dated 500,000 years ago. Thenok tried to send a warning to Kelrix, but the Zkari fleet had already jumped to hyperspace. They would reach the Sol system in 3 days. He looked at the corrupted images again. If those were ships, they were bigger than anything the current galaxy had ever built. Bigger than cities, bigger than moons. Impossible, he whispered to himself. No species could build such things. No species could survive that long. But the evidence was there, scattered across 100 different archives, written by species that no longer existed. They all said the same thing in different words. Don't wake them. Don't go there. They're waiting. Then Nook made a decision. He sent a message to the Council Emergency Channel, flagged as highest priority. Recall the Zakari fleet. I believe the quarantine was not to protect us from the humans. It was to protect the humans' territory while they were gone. We have made a grave error. The message took 2 days to reach the Council leadership. By then, the Zakari fleet had already arrived at the Sol system. By then, it was already too late. Kelrix's fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Scanners immediately began sweeping the area. The yellow star burned steady and bright. Planets orbited in perfect harmony. Everything seemed dead and cold. Scan the third planet, Kelrix ordered. I want to know what made it so special. The science officer worked quickly. Sir, the planet is frozen. Thick ice covers most of the surface. No atmosphere to speak of. No heat signature. It's been dead for, the scanners estimate, at least 400,000 years. Any structures? Cities? Technology? Nothing on the surface. But sir, the officer hesitated. There are objects in orbit. Lots of them. They're massive. Kelrix looked at the display. Hundreds of structures floated in various orbits around the dead planet. They were huge, each one the size of a small moon. They looked geometric, artificial, but showed no power readings. Space debris, Kelrix decided. The remnants of whatever civilization was here. Send mining teams to the asteroid belt. We'll strip those orbital structures for scrap later. As his ships moved deeper into the system, Kelrix smiled. The yellow star was theirs. Soon the Zakari Empire would be the richest in the galaxy. He had no idea that his mining teams were about to trigger something that had been waiting in silence for 500,000 years, something patient, something that never forgot. Mining Chief Vexcor was having a good day. His crew had found an asteroid rich with rare metals, the kind that would make them all wealthy, the kind that would make the Zakari Empire powerful. Careful with that drill, he told his team over the radio. We don't want to. The asteroid exploded outward. Not violently, but deliberately. Pieces moved with purpose, revealing something underneath, something that had been hidden. What in the void? Vexcor whispered. It wasn't an asteroid. It was a structure. A massive structure covered in rock and ice as camouflage. As the disguise fell away, lights began to appear. Small at first, then more and more until the entire structure glowed with soft blue light. Pull back, Vexcor ordered. Pull back now. But it was too late. The structure was scanning them. Vexcor could feel it, like invisible fingers touching his ship, reading every system, learning every detail. Then the structure sent a signal, a powerful pulse of energy that shot out in all directions. All across the Sol system, things began to wake up. The objects in orbit around the frozen Earth were not debris. They were ships, fleet carriers, each one the size of a small moon. They had been sleeping for 500,000 years, covered in cosmic dust and ice. Mistaken for natural objects, now they were waking up. On the flagship, Kelrix watched in horror as his scanners went crazy. What's happening? He demanded. Sir, the orbital structures are powering up. All of them. Energy readings are off the scale. They're alive. The massive carriers began to move. Slowly at first, like ancient creatures stretching after a long sleep. Ice and dust fell away from their hulls, revealing metal that still shone like new. Sections opened, and from inside each carrier, smaller ships began to emerge. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. Each carrier held an entire fleet. And there were hundreds of carriers. Battle stations, Kelrix shouted. All ships defensive formation. But the human ships didn't attack. They simply took up positions, surrounding the Zakari fleet in a perfect sphere. It was the most precise military maneuver Kelrix had ever seen. No communication between ships, no confusion, just pure coordination. Then a voice spoke. It came through every Zakari radio, every computer system, every screen. The voice was calm, almost friendly, but it carried absolute authority. This is Prometheus, Central Command AI of the Earth Defense Fleet. Unauthorized presence detected in Sol system, sovereign territory of the human collective. You have violated restricted space. State your purpose or withdraw immediately. Kelrix found his voice. This is Ambassador Kelrix of the Zakari Empire. The Galactic Council has lifted the quarantine on this system. We are here by legal right. A pause. Then quarantine? Checking records. The Sol system was never quarantined. Earth voluntarily withdrew from galactic affairs 500,000 years ago. to deal with an external threat. This withdrawal included a request that our borders be respected during our absence. Did the Council believe we would not return? "You've been gone for 500,000 years," Kelrick shouted. "Everyone forgot about you. Everyone thought you were dead." "Forgot?" The AI sounded almost sad. "We left Guardians. We left our fleet. We left instructions. Did no one read them?" Down on Earth, something even more shocking was happening. The frozen planet was changing. Massive installations buried under miles of ice began to activate. Heat generators came online, warming the planet from within. Atmosphere processors started working, pulling gases from underground reserves and releasing them into the thin air. The ice began to melt. In orbit, inside the largest fleet carrier, systems engaged that hadn't moved in millennia. The carrier was called Eternal Vigil, and it had been the flagship of Earth's defense force. Inside its protected core in specially designed chambers, millions of humans slept. They had volunteered for this. They called it the Long Watch. They knew they might sleep for years, decades, maybe centuries. They never imagined it would be 500,000 years. Captain Sarah Chen floated in her stasis pod, her body perfectly preserved by technology that was ancient even when Earth went dark. Her last memory was saying goodbye to her daughter, promising she would come back. Her daughter would be dust now. Her great-great-great-grandchildren, thousands of generations removed, would be dust. But Earth would survive. That was what mattered. Her pod opened with a hiss of equalizing pressure. Cold air hit her lungs. She gasped, coughed, and opened her eyes. Medical robots immediately surrounded her, checking her vital signs, helping her breathe. "Welcome back, Captain Chen," Prometheus said through the speakers. "The date is approximately 500,000 years after you entered stasis. Earth still stands, the fleet still guards, and we have visitors." Sarah's mind struggled to process this. 500,000 years? It wasn't possible. But as she looked at the medical readouts, saw the date stamps, felt the age in her bones despite the perfect preservation, she knew it was true. "Report," she said, her voice rough from disuse. "The Galactic Council, a political body we have no records of, has sent ships into our system. They claim they have legal right to be here. They believe Earth is abandoned. They believe we are malfunctioning AI." Sarah pulled herself to her feet with the help of the robots. Her muscles were weak, but training took over. "How many ships?" 30 Zakari vessels, mining and military class. More are likely coming. "Captain, I must inform you that the galaxy has changed significantly. The species we knew are extinct. New species have risen. They have no memory of humanity. They think we are myths." Sarah walked to the window of her medical bay. Outside she could see Earth, her Earth, still frozen but beginning to thaw. Still there, still waiting for her. "Wake the command crew," she ordered. "All department heads. We need to establish communication with these Zakari. Captain, I should inform you that I have tried. They do not believe humans still exist. They think I am a rogue AI." Sarah managed a weak smile. "Then I guess we need to introduce ourselves. Properly." Across the fleet, more pods began to open. Engineers, pilots, soldiers, scientists. All of them had volunteered to be Earth's guardians. All of them waking to a galaxy that had forgotten them. Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb woke up next to Sarah. He had been her second in command, her friend, her confidant. When he saw the date, he laughed. It wasn't a happy laugh. It was the laugh of a man who realized his entire world was gone. 500,000 years, he said. Everyone we knew gone. But Earth remains, Sarah said firmly. And so do we. We have a job to do, Marcus. These aliens need to understand what they've stumbled into. Within hours, thousands of humans were awake. The Eternal Vigil came fully online. Weapon systems charged. Not to attack, but to be ready. Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of her ship for the first time in 500,000 years. Her crew worked their stations like they had never left. Training was permanent. Duty was forever. "Open a channel to the Zakari flagship," she ordered. Visual. The screen flickered on. Kelrick stared at her in shock. She was clearly biological, clearly alive, and clearly in command of the most powerful fleet he had ever seen. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Fleet," she said calmly. "Welcome to the Sol system. We need to talk." Kelrick couldn't speak. He had expected ancient machines. Instead, he was looking at a human. A real, living human. They were real, and they had been waiting. Ambassador Kelrick stared at the human on his screen. She looked so normal. 2 arms, 2 legs, 1 head. No scales, no tentacles, no special features. Just a being in a military uniform standing on the bridge of a ship that could probably destroy his entire fleet. "You're real," he whispered. Captain Sarah Chen nodded. "Very real, and very much still in control of this system. I understand there's been some confusion. Perhaps we should start with introductions and explanations." But Kelrick's military commander, General Thax, pushed forward. "This is a trick," he growled. "Some kind of advanced AI pretending to be biological. No species can survive 500,000 years in stasis. It's impossible." Sarah's expression didn't change. "I assure you, General, we are quite real. We used advanced stasis technology. Time didn't pass for us the way it passed for you. We went to sleep and now we've woken up." "Lies." Thax slammed his claw on the console. "The Council must know about this. These are rogue war machines from an ancient conflict. They're dangerous." Sarah felt frustration building. "We're not machines. We're people. If you would just listen, enough." Kelrick's cut the communication. He turned to his crew. "Send a distress signal to the Council. Tell them we've discovered hostile AI in the Sol system. Tell them we need military support." "But sir," his communication officer said, "what if she's telling the truth?" "Look at the facts," Kelrick said, though doubt crept into his voice. "A species disappears for 500,000 years and leaves behind a fleet that still works perfectly. Impossible. These must be automated defense systems. They might even be dangerous if they fully activate. We need to neutralize them before they become a threat to the galaxy." The distress signal went out, traveling through hyperspace to the Council headquarters. Within hours, every major species in the galaxy knew about the Sol system situation. Fear spread quickly. Ancient weapon systems, possibly malfunctioning, possibly hostile. No one wanted another galactic war. On Earth, Sarah Chen met with her command staff in the conference room of the Eternal Vigil. Around the table sat men and women who had been asleep for 500,000 years. They all looked tired, confused, and determined. "They don't believe we're real," Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb said. "They think we're AI. Can we prove we're biological?" asked Commander Liu, the chief medical officer. "We could offer to let them examine us," Sarah suggested. Prometheus's voice came through the speakers. "Captain, I must inform you that 17 more fleets are en route to this system. Combined forces from 12 different species. Total ship count, approximately 50,000 vessels. They are treating this as a military crisis." The room went silent. 50,000 ships, Marcus said quietly. "They're bringing a war fleet." Sarah stood and walked to the window. Earth hung below, still partially frozen but warming. Her planet, her home. She had promised to protect it. "We need to make them understand. Prometheus, can you send them our historical records? Everything about who we are, why we left, when we promised to return. I have been attempting this, Captain. They reject the data as fabricated. They believe I'm a sophisticated AI creating false histories to justify our presence. So they won't listen to reason," Commander Liu said. "They're scared," Sarah said. "I understand that. From their perspective, an ancient military fleet just woke up in their galaxy. They don't know our intentions. They don't know if we're safe." "What are our intentions?" Marcus asked carefully. Sarah looked at her old friend. "We fulfill our mission. We find out if the Devourers are still a threat. We protect Earth, and if possible, we avoid killing anyone who doesn't deserve it." The war fleet arrived 3 days later. 50,000 ships from 12 species, all different designs, all armed and ready. They formed a massive wall at the edge of the Sol system. It was the largest military gathering in modern galactic history. Admiral Korath of the Council Security Force took command. He was a veteran of a dozen small conflicts, but nothing had prepared him for this. The human fleet was smaller in number, only about 30,000 ships active so far, but his scanners showed something terrifying. Each human ship was more powerful than anything his forces had. The humans had built their fleet to fight something worse than any current galactic species. They had built their fleet to win against impossible odds. Captain Chen requested a diplomatic channel. Admiral Korath granted it, with his entire command staff listening. Sarah appeared on the screen again. She looked tired. "Admiral Korath, I'm Captain Sarah Chen. I want to explain what happened. 500,000 years ago, Earth was part of the galactic community. We had trade, diplomacy, friends. Then something came from outside our galaxy. We called them the Devourers. They consumed entire star systems, turned them into energy, and kept spreading. Korath listened but remained skeptical. Earth volunteered to lead the fight against them. Sarah continued. We chased them beyond the galactic rim. It took everything we had. We knew it might take a long time, so we left our fleet here on automatic guard. We used stasis technology to preserve ourselves. We thought it might take decades, maybe a century, and we never imagined. Her voice trailed off. On the screen, Korath could see the pain in her eyes. Real pain. Could an AI fake that? We won, Sarah said. We pushed the Devourers back. We saved the galaxy, but it cost us everything. Our families, our civilization, our place in history, and now we wake up to find that the galaxy has forgotten us and sees us as a threat. Prove you're biological, Korath demanded. Not AI. How? Sarah asked, spreading her hands. I'm talking to you. I'm breathing. What proof would satisfy you? Come aboard my flagship, alone, let our doctors examine you. Sarah considered this. It could be a trap, but it might be the only way to make them believe. Agreed. I'll come unarmed. But Admiral, if your people try to harm me, my fleet has orders to respond. Not to attack you, but to defend themselves. I don't want bloodshed. Neither do I, Captain. The meeting was arranged. Sarah took a small shuttle to the Council flagship. She was met by armed guards, medical staff, and dozens of sensors. They scanned her from every angle. They took samples of her blood, her skin, her hair. They ran every test they could think of. The results were undeniable. She was biological. Carbon-based life. Human DNA, ancient but real. She was exactly what she claimed to be. It's impossible, Korath said, looking at the results. But it's true, Sarah smiled sadly. We're just people, Admiral. People who made a promise and kept it. We said we'd protect the galaxy and come back. We did both. Please just let us go home in peace. Korath wanted to believe her, but he had 50,000 ships behind him and political pressure from every Council species. Fear was a powerful force. The Council must decide, he said. Until then, you need to stay here. Your fleet needs to power down. Sarah's expression hardened. We won't power down our defenses. We've waited 500,000 years to come home. We're not leaving. Then we have a problem, Korath said quietly. And in that moment, both sides knew that war was coming. The negotiations broke down after 2 days. The Council demanded that Earth's fleet power down completely and submit to inspection. Captain Sarah Chen refused. She had a responsibility to her people, to Earth, and to the mission they had carried for 500,000 years. Admiral Korath returned to his flagship with a heavy heart. He believed Sarah was telling the truth now. The medical evidence was clear, but the Council leadership was afraid. They saw only an ancient military force that refused to stand down. The Council sent their final message. Surrender your weapons or be neutralized. Sarah stood on the bridge of the Eternal Vigil and read the message aloud to her crew. Around her, men and women who had sacrificed everything went silent. They had saved the galaxy once. Now that same galaxy wanted to destroy them. Captain? Marcus Webb asked quietly. Orders? Sarah closed her eyes. She thought of her daughter, gone for 500,000 years. She thought of Earth below, finally warming after ages of ice. She thought of all the humans still in stasis, waiting to wake up to a home that should have been theirs. Defensive positions only, she said. We don't fire first. We don't kill unless we have no choice. These people are scared. They don't understand. But we're not monsters. Captain, they have 50,000 ships, I know, Marcus. But we're not starting a war. We're ending one. We just need to show them we're not the enemy. The Council Armada moved forward. Korath had his orders. Disable or destroy the human fleet. He hated those orders, but he had to follow them. All ships advance, he commanded. Target their weapon systems. Try to disable, not destroy. These are people, not machines. Remember that. The Council ships entered the Sol system in a massive wave. It was an impressive sight. Thousands of different vessel types from dozens of species all working together. They filled the space between planets like a metal storm. The human fleet waited. Sarah had positioned her ships in defensive formation around Earth. She knew this was going to be bad. Her fleet was powerful, but she didn't want to prove it by killing thousands of innocents who were just following orders. Prometheus, she said quietly. What are our odds? The AI responded immediately. Of victory? Approximately 94%. Of victory without significant enemy casualties? Less than 20%. Captain, I recommend we demonstrate our capabilities with a warning shot. No warning shots. They'll take it as an act of war. Captain, they are already at war with us. Sarah gripped the arms of her command chair. Not yet, they aren't. Hold position. Shields at maximum. Weapons online, but do not lock targets unless fired upon. The first shots came from a young, eager council captain who panicked when his sensors showed him the true power of the human shields. His plasma torpedoes hit the human cruiser, Defiant, at full strength. The shields absorbed the impact without even flickering. Return fire? Asked the Defiant's captain over the command channel. Negative, Sarah ordered. Hold position. Do not escalate, but the damage was done. The council fleet saw one of their ships fire, and instinct took over. 50,000 ships opened fire at once. Space lit up like a star-going supernova. Energy weapons, missiles, kinetic rounds, exotic particle beams. Everything the galaxy had invented for warfare was thrown at the human fleet. The human shields held. Not one ship was damaged. The defensive technology that Earth had developed to fight the Devourers, that impossible enemy from outside the galaxy, made current weapons look like toys. All ships, Sarah commanded, her voice steady. Disable enemy vessels. Target engines and weapons only. No casualties if possible. The human fleet moved. They moved with coordination that no modern fleet could match. Every ship knew exactly where every other ship was. Their timing was perfect. Their aim was flawless. They had been built by people who knew they might be fighting alone against an enemy that could destroy galaxies. They had been built to win impossible battles. In less than 3 minutes, 5,000 council ships were disabled. Their engines dead, their weapons offline, but their life support intact. Their crews were safe but helpless. Admiral Korath watched in horror. His massive fleet was being dismantled piece by piece, and the humans weren't even trying hard. They were being careful. They were being merciful. All ships fall back, he ordered. Retreat to secondary positions. But the council fleet was too large, too spread out. Thousands of ships tried to retreat while thousands more kept fighting. The formation collapsed into chaos. Human ships wove through the mess, disabling vessels with surgical precision. They avoided any action that might harm crew members. They left rescue paths open. They even protected council ships that were drifting helplessly from being hit by their own allies' stray shots. One young human pilot, Commander Lisa Park, saved a council medical ship that had been caught in crossfire. She positioned her fighter between the medical ship and incoming fire, taking the hits on her shields while the medical ship escaped. Korath saw this. He saw humans protecting his people. He saw humans fighting with restraint even though they could have been ruthless. He saw the truth. These weren't monsters. These were soldiers who hated this battle as much as he did. Cease fire, he broadcast on all channels. All council ships, cease fire immediately. This is Admiral Korath. Stand down. But not everyone listened. Some captains were too angry, too afraid, or too proud. They kept fighting. Sarah made a decision. Prometheus, broadcast our historical records directly to every council ship. Override their systems if you have to. Make them see. Captain, that would be an act of cyber warfare. Do it. They need to understand. Prometheus, with the full power of Earth's ancient technology, broke through every firewall in the council fleet. Not to harm, but to show. He played the records on every screen, every computer, every communication device. The council crews saw Earth as it had been 500,000 years ago. A beautiful blue planet full of life. They saw humans living, laughing, building. They saw Earth ships joining the galactic community. They saw humans making friends with species that no longer existed. Then they saw the Devourers arrive, black holes with purpose, entities that consumed stars like food. The records showed the horror as system after system fell. They showed the galactic community in panic, unable to fight back. They showed Earth volunteer to lead the counterattack. The records showed Captain Sarah Chen, younger, saying goodbye to a little girl. Her daughter. I have to go, Sarah said in the recording. I have to help protect the galaxy. I'll come back, I promise. They showed the human fleet leave, thousands of ships heading into darkness beyond the galactic rim. They showed Earth's defenses activate, the planet going into hibernation, waiting for its children to return. They showed the battles, brief clips because most of the fleet was destroyed fighting the Devourers. They showed human ships buying time with their lives. They showed the final push, the Devourers being driven back beyond known space. They showed the victory, purchased with the death of an entire civilization's future, and they showed the return. The fleet coming back to a galaxy that had forgotten them. Coming home to find they were strangers in their own space. Across the Council fleet, thousands of beings watched. Many were crying. Some were from species that showed emotion differently, but the sentiment was the same. Shame, horror, grief. They had attacked their own saviors. Admiral Korath's voice cracked as he broadcast to the entire battlefield. All Council forces stand down immediately. That is a direct order. Any captain who fires another shot will be court-martialed. These are Earth's defenders. These are the people who saved us 500,000 years ago, and we repaid them with war. The fighting stopped. Ships drifted in silence. The only sounds were life support systems and the quiet crying of crews who had just learned what they had done. Sarah Chen sat in her command chair, exhausted. Around her, the bridge crew looked equally drained. They had won, but it felt like losing. Casualty report, she asked quietly. Council forces, 247 dead, mostly from their own crossfire or accidents. 3,000 injured. Human forces, 0 casualties. All ships intact. Sarah put her face in her hands. 247 people dead because they were afraid of us. Marcus put a hand on her shoulder. We did everything we could to minimize casualties. We saved thousands more by ending it quickly. It shouldn't have happened at all. A message came through from Admiral Korath. His image appeared on the screen. He looked broken. Captain Chen, he said. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry. The entire Council is sorry. We should have listened. We should have believed you. Sarah looked at him. What happens now, Admiral? Now? Korath straightened slightly. Now we make this right. The Council will formally apologize. We'll help restore Earth. We'll tell everyone the truth about what you did for us. Sarah managed a small smile. And maybe next time when someone says they're coming back, the galaxy will remember to believe them. 3 months passed. The Sol system changed more in those months than it had in 500,000 years. Earth warmed. The ice melted, revealing continents that had been frozen since humans left. Rivers flowed again. The atmosphere processors worked day and night, turning the thin dead air into something breathable. Plants from the genetic archives were being grown, ready to be spread across the continents. The planet was coming back to life. Captain Sarah Chen stood in what had once been Central Park in the ancient city of New York. The city was gone, buried under centuries of ice and time, but the land remained. Grass was already growing where her feet stood. Small trees, only weeks old, stretched toward the sun. It's beautiful, Lieutenant Commander Marcus Webb said beside her. He held a seedling in his hands, ready to plant it. It's home, Sarah said simply. Across the planet, thousands of humans were waking from stasis. They came out in waves, carefully managed by Prometheus to ensure everyone had time to adjust. Engineers, scientists, farmers, teachers, artists, all the people needed to rebuild a civilization. Many cried when they saw Earth. Many more cried when they learned how long they had slept. Everyone they had known, everyone they had left behind was gone. But Earth remained, and that was enough. In orbit, the Galactic Council sent their representatives. Ambassador Kelrix was not among them. He had resigned in shame after the battle. In his place came Elder Thenok, the archivist who had tried to warn them. He was old even by his species' long lifespan, but he had insisted on being the one to make first contact. The Council shuttle landed near Sarah's position. Thenok emerged, walking slowly with a cane. Behind him came representatives from 20 different species. They all looked nervous. Sarah walked forward to meet them. She wore her uniform, but she smiled. Elder Thenok, your message tried to warn the fleet. Thank you for that. Thenok bowed his head. I am only sorry I did not try harder. Captain Chen, on behalf of the Galactic Council, I am here to formally apologize for what happened. We attacked you without cause. We forgot our history and nearly destroyed our saviors. There is no excuse. You were afraid, Sarah said gently. I understand fear. But we need to move past it. Both of us. The Council wishes to offer Earth full membership, Thenok said. We will restore all of humanity's ancient territorial claims. We will provide resources to help rebuild your civilization. We will ensure that Earth's story is taught in every school across the galaxy. Never again will we forget. Sarah looked at the representatives. They all looked hopeful, eager to make amends. But she had discussed this with her command staff, with the awakening civilians, with Prometheus. They had come to a decision. We appreciate the offer, Elder Thenok, but we must decline the territorial claims. Shock rippled through the council representatives. You see, Sarah continued, we've learned something in our long sleep. We've learned patience. We've learned that sometimes the best thing you can do is step back. We don't need to reclaim our old empire. We just need Earth. We just need one system to call home. But the council owes you so much more, a representative said. Then help us rebuild here. Help us restore Earth, trade with us. Be our friends. That's all we want. We're tired of war. We're tired of fighting. We just want to come home. Thenok's many eyes blinked in sequence. It was his species' way of showing deep respect. You have more wisdom than we deserve, Captain. The Council accepts. We will help restore Earth, and we will be honored to call humanity our friends. There's one more thing, Sarah said, her tone becoming serious. Our fleet will remain on station. The Eternal Watch continues. You expect another war? Thenok asked carefully. We pushed the Devourers back, Sarah explained. We didn't destroy them. No one could. We just drove them beyond the edge of known space. But they're still out there. Still hungry. Still searching for a way back. She gestured to the sky, where the massive fleet carriers orbited Earth like protective moons. Someone needs to watch the borders. Someone needs to be ready if they return. My people volunteered for this duty 500,000 years ago. That duty doesn't end just because we're awake now. You would continue to guard the galaxy? Asked a young council representative. Even after what we did to you? Sarah smiled. That's what we do. That's who we are. We keep our promises. We said we'd protect the galaxy. We will. Marcus planted his seedling in the ground and stood up. Besides, we have a good setup. Earth will rebuild. Civilians will have normal lives. But the fleet remains on watch with volunteers rotating in and out. We can protect the galaxy and live our lives, both at once. Thenok was quiet for a moment. Then he said, the Council would like to help with the watch. Not to command it, but to support it. Our species could volunteer to join your fleet. Learn from you. Stand beside you. Sarah hadn't expected that. She looked at Marcus, who shrugged. Could work, he said. Under human command, Sarah said firmly. The Long Watch is our responsibility. Agreed, Thenok said immediately. Your experience fighting the Devourers is invaluable. You know what's out there. We don't. We would be honored to serve under your command. And so it was decided. Earth would rejoin the galaxy, but on its own terms. The fleet would remain on eternal guard, but it would no longer be alone. Species from across the galaxy began sending volunteers to serve on human ships, to learn human tactics, to prepare for a threat they hoped would never return. 6 months after the awakening, Earth held its first festival in 500,000 years. Humans and aliens gathered in the rebuilt cities. Music played, food was shared, children laughed. The sky was blue again. The air was breathable. Life had returned. Sarah stood on a hill overlooking the celebration. She was off duty for the first time in months. She wore civilian clothes instead of her uniform. She felt strange in them, like wearing someone else's skin. A small girl, maybe 8 years old, approached her. She was one of the children woken from stasis. Captain Chen? The girl asked shyly. Just Sarah today, Sarah said, kneeling down to the girl's level. What's your name? Emma. My mom says you saved everyone. She says you're a hero. Sarah thought about the 247 council members who had died in the battle. She thought about the human fleet members who had died fighting the Devourers. She thought about her own daughter, gone for 500,000 years, who she would never see again. I just kept a promise, Sarah said. That's all. Can I keep promises like you? Emma asked. Sarah smiled and ruffled the girl's hair. You can do better. You can make new promises, better ones. You can build things instead of just protecting them. You have that chance. We all do now. Emma ran off to play with other children, human and alien children, playing together, not knowing or caring about old wars and older fears. That night, Sarah returned to the eternal vigil. She stood on the bridge and looked at the tactical displays. The fleet was spread across the solar system in perfect formation. New ships were being built with council help, incorporating both human and modern galactic technology. Prometheus, she said. Status report. All systems optimal, Captain. Earth restoration proceeding ahead of schedule. Fleet at full readiness. Sensor network detecting no threats beyond the galactic rim. Good. Sarah sat in her command chair. It felt right. This was where she belonged. Captain, Prometheus said, and his voice sounded almost curious. May I ask a question? Of course. Why do humans keep their promises? Even when it costs everything? Even when it would be easier to forget? Sarah thought about that. Because if we don't keep our promises, what are we? Just animals surviving. But when we keep our word, even when it's hard, even when it hurts, we become something more. We become people worth remembering. The galaxy forgot you, Prometheus pointed out, but we didn't forget them. And now they'll remember. Not because we demanded it, not because we threatened them, but because we showed them who we are. We showed them that some things matter more than memory. Duty matters. Honor matters. Keeping your word matters. She stood and walked to the forward window. Earth hung below, blue and green and beautiful. Her home, worth fighting for, worth waiting for, worth everything. The long watch continues, she said quietly. The long watch continues, Prometheus agreed. And far away, beyond the edge of the galaxy, in the darkness between the stars, something stirred, something ancient and hungry. The devourers had been pushed back, but they had not forgotten Earth either. They remembered the species that had hurt them. They remembered the fleet that had driven them away. And they were patient too. But when they returned, they would find something different. They would find not just humanity standing guard, but an entire galaxy standing with them. They would find that Earth had not waited alone. They would find that the lesson of the long watch had spread. Some promises are worth keeping. Some duties are worth bearing. Some fights are worth fighting, even if they take 1,000,000 years. Earth had returned. The fleet had awakened. And the galaxy would never forget again. The story of humanity was not over. It was just beginning again. But this time they would not face the darkness alone. This time the galaxy would remember. And that made all the difference.